Good afternoon, everyone. Just want to go ahead and get started. It's what, 1:17. Sorry, we're 2 minutes late here, but we'll get started and want to thank all of you for signing up for this. I hope some of your employees will see at the frontline seminar this afternoon. We're so glad to have Erik back. He has been such a great friend of the chamber and great training that we've done in the past with him. At this time, I want to introduce Jeremy Goyko, who is our chair of our customer service PPP committee, and he'll go ahead and introduce Erik and get us started. So, Jeremy, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ken. And thank you to everybody joining us today. My name's Jeremy Goyko. I sit on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce and the committee chair of our customer service committee as part of our peak performance program. We've been developing this guest speaker series for quite a few years now, and we were lucky enough to have Erik join us about a year and a half ago, where he introduced his book, Ordinary to Extraordinary, Stories of Exotic Places and Remarkable People, How Belonging and Purpose Can Transform Your Life. And he did such a great job and made such an impression with his bright red pants that when he told us he was coming out with another book as kind of a sequel to that, Explore, which is Loving, Living, and Learning on the Edge, Extraordinary Adventures of Vulnerability and Strength. So all of you should have received a packet, including this book, which also includes Beyond a Boss, this worksheet that we'll be working off of today. Really excited to have Erik back. Just a few housekeeping things real quick. This is our first time doing this on Zoom. So we just wanted to mention, in an effort to keep this training as interactive as possible, we're highly encouraging everyone to keep their cameras on during the training, as long as you aren't moving around. If you're viewing this on your phone and you're going to be moving around a little bit, it might be less distracting to just turn your camera off for a moment, but try to make yourself comfortable and be ready to interact a little bit. We will be breaking off into smaller chat rooms, having discussions, and then coming back to the bigger group. We have enabled the chat feature, so you have the ability to post in the chat any questions, comments, anything like that. Feel free to put that in the chat. You also have the ability to unmute yourself and ask any questions. Keeping this as interactive as possible. When you have a question or a response to a question from our speaker, please use the raise your hand feature. You can also put any questions in the chat, like I mentioned before. We have been doing a couple Zoom meetings and have experienced some Zoom hackers, unfortunately. So Brianna has the thrilling task of managing that. Hopefully we won't run into any issues there. But usually they're kind of in the chat. If you see something that looks like a hacker in the chat, just kind of avoid using the chat for a minute, and Brianna should be able to kick them out of the program. So without further ado, I want to officially introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Erik Seversen. This man is very well traveled over 80 countries, 50 states. He's ridden his motorcycle on 6 continents, which I am very jealous of. And he has been, his current ambition is sharing his life lessons that he's learned through his public speaking and his language school. So please give a warm welcome to Mr. Erik Seversen. Erik, take it away, my man. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
All right, Jeremy. So great to see you again. Thank you so much for the introduction. Great to see your faces. I've got in grid view right now, so I can see a lot of you. I hope a few of you did get a chance to see me last year. And like Jeremy said, I did have my red pants on. If you're wondering if I wear my red pants for Zoom calls, the answer is, in fact, yes, I do. I want to make sure that I'm in my same costume as I always am while speaking. And I think we can all agree, this has been a really wild year. It's been, I don't know if any of you saw the introduction. I imagine a few of you did for my video about this talk. I usually talk about high fives, hugs, and success, happiness and success. And this year I'm going to add a tiny bit on stress, just because I've had to deal with stress in my life in a way that I haven't. And like I said, if you've seen my thing, you saw I left an executive position doing international business development for a company to do public speaking full time in January. I built up a pretty good resume of speaking for 2020, and it took about 3 days in early March for my whole year to be canceled. And so that wasn't a super fun thing. I was sitting there with no job, and I had to figure out something. And it took a little bit. I literally had to reevaluate and ask myself, because I went into a funk. I'm not immune. I realized I'm not immune from it. These things I've been teaching for years about happiness and success and working hard and actions more important than words, all of this stuff, for a moment flew right out the window. And I had to literally say to myself, do I believe what I preach? And the answer was yes. I thought, what am I going to do? I literally was sitting at home with no job and no plan at all for 2020. My wife also doesn't work. I thought, okay, my book, Ordinary to Extraordinary, did some great success in 2018. I was 90% done for 2 years with Explore. So I quickly decided, first step is do a marketing campaign for my first book, my book that's already out. And I did that. That paid the bills for a week or so. Then I finished up in about 3 weeks. I finished up Explore. I got it published it came out in July, actually. So early July. And that kept it going. And I was actually really happy that I was forced to focus on something that was 90% done for 2 years, because I was so busy with my work and my speaking. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that book. But again, I wasn't immune to the stresses. I've seen so many, I feel for so many, especially small business owners are the ones who were kicked the hardest, the ones who are fully responsible for what they've got. I've got a lot of friends who have lost what they had, and the stories of how it happened, you've all seen them, and many of you have experienced them. So even this last 2 weeks, I went through just this strange, unexplicable, non-work related, just chain of events that were all bad. It was one bad event after the next. And I literally said to myself, how in the world? I'd wake up and I'd pray, okay, this is the day, everything's going to change. These 6 bad things happened in the last 6 days, but this is the day everything's going to change. Next thing you know, I get out of bed, I go out to my car, and I find out that my hood is dented. Somebody had somehow dented my hood. Weird things like that. And again, I had to evaluate, how am I going to handle this? That was out of my control. I was in bed and sleeping. Well, somehow my hood got dented in the middle of the night on the street. I'm in control of how I react, though. And I did have to go back to my teachings and decide, how am I going to handle it? And I was able to pull myself out of it, no matter how bad it gets. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. I'm going to be going back and forth with sharing my screen. We'll see how well it does. Can you all see my screen now? Brianna, can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So Beyond a Boss, engaging employees so they can create super fan customers. So the frontline employee session I'm going to be doing later this afternoon and tomorrow is going to be largely focused on how your frontline employees can create super fan customers that want to come back to your company. How they can help make your company unique. Today with you guys, I want to speak on a much higher level. I'm going to share with you some of the main things that I'm going to be talking with them about as well. So you know what they're going to get. But basically, it's about how can you can engage with them. Let me get back to my trying to get back to the unshare screen option.
So if you go to the top, you should be able to end share, stop share.
There we go. All right, so I'm gonna unshare the screen again. So we'll be, all right, am I unshared again?
I unshared you, yes.
I think I get, thank you. We'll go back and forth a little bit. So we'll speak how you can engage with your employees to make them effective of creating superfan customers. I always like to start with some activity. So normally we're doing a little bit of jumping around, but some of us have earphones on, like me included, so we're not going to do that. However, I do want to get us into a mindset that we're going to be here for about an hour together of into this moment a little bit. So rather than jumping around and getting the blood flowing a little bit, one of the things that people don't do enough is simply breathe. It's some little magical thing that allows us to be better and have a little bit more energy. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and close your eyes and kind of either look down in the gaze or close your eyes, whatever you want. I'm going to go look down in the gaze, and I want us to visualize for a moment, and then I want us to take a few deep breaths. So this is only take a second, but so visualize us actually in, say we're in the Wested again, like we were a year ago in July. Jeremy has just done another fabulous introduction. Ken has already spoken. You guys are sitting there. I walk in, I give a few high fives. Of course, I'm wearing my red pants. I'm totally excited to be in front of you guys again. I jump up on the stage. I'm going to hug Jeremy because I always love Jeremy. Hug Jeremy. I look at you guys and I say, okay, let's jump up and down, get started, get this thing moving. Instead of jumping up and down, let's just take a few deep breaths. So take a massive deep breath in and let it out slowly. So in through your nose, out through your mouth. One more. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And another one, in. Out. Last one, and let a little sound come out when you let your breath out, and just think to yourself, relax. Deep breath. Relax. All right. That is one little magical tool it's like a cup of coffee for me when I need it. We're going to be talking about a few other tools for you guys to just deal with a little bit of the stress. I'm going to go in. How many of you, if you can just kind of wave your hands around, I can see most of you. How many of you did you see me a year ago? Okay, a few. Good. Excellent. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so the happy face, again, we start to feel like we surround ourselves by. So that happy face actually was, I was going to do it during the breathing, but we're going to go on. So when I saw you last, Ordinary to Extraordinary was done. Jeremy just explained that Explore was finished in this year. I also didn't stop there. I decided that writing was what I can do during the pandemic. So I published The Magical Lightness of Being. And if any of you have read Milan Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, of course, this is a play off of that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. It's about the stages of my life. And when I talk about that, I want you to reflect on the stages of your life, because I don't think enough people take the time to just reflect on their lives and what it means for them right now. And as I was writing Explore, the last chapter is called Happiness and Success. And as I was writing the last sentences, I was so excited. And I thought, I'm going to write another book on success. And immediately I thought, okay, it'll take me maybe 2 years to do it. But instead, I solicited the help of 33 experts from around the world. So I've got like a business coach in London. I've got a pastoral counselor in South Africa. I've got a firewalking coach in India. I've got a psilocybin journey expert who leads people on mushroom journeys in Costa Rica. And all of these people all wrote one chapter, 33 of them, about what's the best way to create a successful mind. And so that book was published in October, and immediately I saw the results, the emails I got from people who had read this book and the positive side effects from it. I'm writing now with another group of authors, The Successful Body, using nutrition, fitness, and mindset to live better, and that'll be out in January. So where I'm going with this is I could have gone into a hole for 2020 with my normal career ended. Instead, I really, really pushed to get something else going. And in the end, I'm going to chalk 2020 down as work related, a very successful year. And the magical lightness of being, one of the products from this year, is my take on existence. And as I was doing this book, it's kind of common for authors who have a few books to do a little tiny book. This is about a 20-minute read on Amazon. It's ebook only. It's always cheap. It's going to be 99 cents forever. Just as a way to get a glimpse of the inner thoughts with a short read, because so very commonly somebody finds out I write and they say, oh, I never have time to read. So this is an example of where somebody can get an idea. The 6 stages of my life, as I wrote this, I realized are similar to a lot of people's, and they were seeds, which is my grandparents. I narrowed down that there are 4 ancestors of mine that really contributed to who I am. My great grandma, my mom's dad, my dad's dad, and my parents, actually. And then anxiety. I had anxiety as a child that nobody knew about. It was not knowing the answer to a question that the teacher asked, and trying not to make eye contact, but trying not to let her know that I'm trying not to make eye contact was exhausting. Trying to keep the peace in the family during family arguments, sticking up for bullies, all of these things, trying to do the right thing always. I looking back was really exhausting to me, but it made me want to be just like everybody else. The next stage came about junior high, where all of a sudden I started charging in sports and things that I was interested uniquely at. And I started studying a little bit more, but not really. And then the discovery stage was a pinnacle part where I started traveling around the world a little bit. I started reading books more, and I realized that my personal discovery was that being different wasn't a bad thing. Being different was the thing that made me special, was my contribution to the world a little bit. And so I embraced being different. The illumination came when I suddenly created my own company. I created a company in 1996, sold that in 2008. But more recently, I created a company 4 years ago now. And when I did, and I left my executive position, I was forced with a level of stress, like you all know, many of you know, of being personally responsible for what comes in and not. And that really bent me out of shape a little bit. It weighted me down. And so I had to find a solution. And I was reading all of the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Zig Ziglar, and then up through Tony Robbins and then Tim Ferriss. And I realized a lot of these people copy habits of super successful people. And that's what I started doing. And so I started meditating. I started eating better. I was exercising more. I was moved, but I exercised intentionally. And I really found a new way to feel inside my body to live my life. And that's when I started doing public speaking as well. When that caught on, I wanted to share it with everybody I could. And so that was a really neat illumination. And then today, I think where I am, it's finding this balance of life, family, it's basically family, work, and myself. Those 3 things. It's not a teeter-totter for me. It's a 3 things. For me, there's God is a part in that. So it's more like a 3-dimensional triangle. But that triangle creates such a stability that I'm really, really comfortable with. And I think a lot of people forget about the self. They're so concerned with making sure their family life is great, making sure their work is great, but they neglect the self. And it's harder to be a good family person if you're not taking care of yourself. It's harder to be a great employer if you're not taking care of yourself. So that's what my today is. And what did I learn? I learned that fear is great. When I'm scared, I realize I'm faster, smarter, sharper, because it's the adrenaline, the cortisol that's pushing me is making me stronger. Action, I mentioned this before, action is more important than words. I also realize that I'm not driving the ship. There's something bigger than me that gives me a great sense of satisfaction. I can't control what happens. I can control my reaction to it. That's all I can do. There are certain things that are out of my control. So that was kind of a little bit long. I want you guys to go ahead now, and I want you to, I'm gonna have you just by yourselves first for a few minutes. Go to your work. Do you guys have your workbooks with you? Most of you? Good. I see some heads nodding. Most of you do. I want you to take this time to reflect. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it though. So Brianna, can we go ahead and have people say for 4 minutes, just by yourselves, go through pages 2 through 4 on that workbook, and do not try and fill everything out. For example, seeds, the people in your family who influenced you, just write their name, but not what you gained for them yet. We're going to break into small groups in a minute. Because I want you guys to be able to share with each other. You're not going to necessarily have to share about anything on this, but hopefully a few of you will want to share a few things. But just in 4 minutes, which isn't a lot of time, go through. And if you were anxious as a child, write down what that was. What pursuit did you have? What sport or activity or subject in school were you really captured by as a teenager? And what was your discovery? Have you had a moment of illumination? And then the last part, today, there's just 3 adjectives. Today, I am blank, blank, and blank, and think of 3 adjectives for yourself. So 4 minutes to do that by your individually, and then I'm going to have you go into groups of 4. Got it, Brianna? All right, are we all back? Okay, great, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed spending just a few minutes thinking about your life. Let's go ahead and just do like maybe 30 seconds each in groups of 4 and choose pursuit or discovery, or really anything you want. And I want you to just share with 3 people, so groups of 4, and we're going to only do it for 3 minutes, and just share for a few seconds each, about 30 seconds each, about what was your pursuit, what was your subject, your hobby, your sport that you were passionate about when you were young, and did you have a discovery as you were moving into an adulthood? And just quickly tell them what it was, and we're going to come back really quickly after that. So Brianna, you got it for the groups?
Okay, so everyone should see a message. So just accept. Yep, there we go. So the groups are 4 to 5, just so you know, Eric.
Yeah, that's perfect. So we'll just do a few of those, and yeah, and the groups. I was going to do a few. I'll do a few more, but I'm going to do fewer than I thought. I think,
Okay.
just because I'm going to get into a few other things, and we can talk about it rather than just being in the groups. But I definitely wanted them to have one on their own.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and I'm timing it. So 1 minute, a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds before I'll start pulling them out.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Ben didn't want to go to a breakout room.
I think he's in one. I think there's another one with his video.
Oh, are there 2 Bens?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I know they do computer and phone, so. Okay. Great, so almost everybody's here. There's probably about 8 people that aren't here that signed up, so.
All right.
Pretty good. Just so you know, Eric, we're dealing with like a major wind event here right now. So
Wind?
Yes. Wind.
Wow.
So hopefully nobody loses power, but I just wanted to let you know.
Other parts of the county, they've already had a PSPS up in Bridgeport and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Also, my
Hey, it's 2020. What do you expect?
I know, totally. You just when you think nothing else can happen.
my internet's been kind of fishy at my house, so I'm hiding out without a video for now until it gets a little bit better.
Well, I'm just glad, Curtis, that you're the one who liked the video. and I understand you guys totally. I wanted it to be a little bit shocking, just as a wake up, but I totally understand.
It was shocking. I thought it was funny. I was just
yeah. And Ken, I think maybe you're right. Maybe if it wasn't the shower scene but something else and the end might have worked.
Yeah.
Hi there. We're in breakout rooms right now, so everyone will be back soon, but thank you for joining us. All right, I'm gonna let them know they have 1 minute left. Great, okay.
We were waiting for a Nate.
Yeah, I think Nate keeps getting kicked out. We can let him in. He was already in the meeting. I think something happened. Okay, they have 15 seconds left, so I'm going to start closing the rooms and they have 1 minute to come back.
And Brianna, I'm going to show a YouTube video. They can hear my sound when I do share
Just
screen,
make
right?
sure when you share screen, you click that little thing to share computer sound.
And that's on the
If you
bottom.
want to send me the link, if you just want to send it to me in the chat, I'm happy to do it too.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to close all the rooms now.
All right. Is everybody out?
No, we only
Nope.
have 16 back, so let's wait
Okay, no
a little
problem.
bit longer. They'll all be pushed back in here in 12 seconds. Okay, everyone's back.
All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed spending a few moments thinking about your life, which I don't think a lot of people do often enough. Normally, this is a time when I love to just have you guys shout out and, you know, a few people tell me about some of their moments of discovery, because I love to learn that. I hope some of you want to email me that. With just not knowing who's going to go and everybody trying to speak at once probably won't work very well. But I'd love it if some of you emailed me some of the things that if you clicked with anything that you hadn't thought of about your life. That'd be really fun for me to know. The next section, I'm sharing my screen again, is I want to mention briefly is the initial stress of COVID-19. You guys know it, you feel it, you've got it. So in your worksheet later, not now, I have some 3 little things for you to list your causes of stress and go through that. But the thing is, like I mentioned earlier, we do not have to be a slave to the bad things that are happening in our lives if we want. Some of you might know the myth of Sisyphus, where there's a guy in Greek mythology who is basically, long story short, he's condemned to roll a rock up a hill for eternity. Rock rolls down, he rolls it up again, over and over and over again. That's Sisyphus pushing this rock up. But this book ends with the idea that no matter how dire the circumstances or for how long the circumstances are bad, as long as we're conscious as humans, we have this supernatural control over our thoughts. So he can have his shoulder pushed against this large rock, pushing it up the hill, angry that he's condemned to do this for eternity. Or he can say, you know what? This is where I'm at. I can think about whatever I want. He could think about eating popcorn and candy if he wants to. He can think about anything he wants, no matter if we are riding a motorcycle across an open highway somewhere free as a bird, or we're locked in a prison cell. Nobody can choose what happens in here except for ourselves. And so it's more important for us than ever to do that. And so also there's a section right in your workbook about the causes of happiness. And I hope that we are going to be able to focus on the happy things that are in our lives, because they are there somewhere. They're just not as obvious. So I hope we can do that. Now, I want to get into almost a very important part of this, which is the nuts and bolts of customer service. So first, you know, why is customer service important in the first place? And I'm going to try and show this a quick little video. It's about a 90-second video. Let me see if I can. Pull it up. All right, are you guys seeing my screen?
Yes, I don't think we can hear it. I think you need to share the computer sound.
Okay, you can actually, everything is written on here anyway. So, whoops, oh shoot. All right, one more time. So what you have to do is count everything he says is written as well, so you don't need the sound. But the key is everything you're supposed to do is count how many times the people in white pass the ball. It's kind of a fun experiment. Some of you might have seen it before, but it's really shocking how few people can actually simply count how many times they pass the ball. So that's all you have to do. There's the gorilla and the curtains changing from red to gold. Wave your hands, how many of you have seen that before? Okay, how many, just kind of wave your hands again, how many did not see the gorilla the first time? I know I did not. Did not see the gorilla the first time. Isn't that crazy? A gorilla walks right in the middle of the screen we're watching, and we don't even notice it. So because we're focused on the balls being passed. Shocking, shocking experiment. And then so many people, this was first done a long time ago, and so many people heard about this that somebody else made the next one where they changed the color of the curtains and one person leaves the game. So the whole point of this is we cannot manage what we don't see, what we're not focusing on. And sadly, customer service is one of those things where business owners and managers, we miss it so much because we think we might be looking for it. We might even think we're looking for the gorilla, but we miss the other things. So it's so important in customer service to really analyze where we're at. I'm going to go through a few stats about customer service. So Rockstar Service, Rockstar Profits. This is a book by my good friend, David Brownlee. I've known David Brownlee for 20 years. We've ridden thousands of miles on motorcycles together. I first know him in the motorcycle industry, or he's not in the industry, I used to be, but he was also a Tony Robbins coach for a long time. So this is his first book. And he basically has this idea that if Steven Tyler walked into your place of business or Sheryl Crow or your favorite actor, whoever it is, how are you and how are your employees going to treat them? And the answer is probably really, really good. You want them to feel good so they come back again because you think that Steven Tyler or Sheryl Crow or whoever it is that you love is super cool and you want to hang out with them. That's kind of his point is this kind of how we'd like to treat everybody who comes into our business. But of course, that's not what happens. Shockingly, the bar for customer service is so low. This is one of the easiest places for you as a business owner or a manager to really up the game with kind of small little things that you can do differently. I'm going to read a few quotes, actually. There are a few on the screen, and I'm going to read a few more. So 84% of customers say their last customer service experience interaction did not exceed their expectations. 84%. Each year, businesses lose 41 billion due to poor customer service. That is a B. That's a staggering number. And that's money that didn't have to be lost. Acquiring a new customer is anywhere from 5 to 25 times more expensive than retaining an existing customer. And these are all from David Brownlee, these quotes. On average, loyal customers are worth more than 10 times as much as their first purchase. 85% of companies say they deliver superior customer service. 8% of people think these same companies deliver superior customer service. So the companies think that 85% of the companies think they do superior, but only 8% of the customers believe them because who use those same companies. And 89% of customers have stopped doing business with a company after experiencing poor customer service. That's money in the fire, like burning cash. There's a restaurant near my house called Lido, and my wife and I just stumbled upon there once a number of years ago, and we just happened to go right after Gordon Ramsay did like the makeover in their restaurant years ago. This was about 15 years ago. And we met the owner. She was telling us about the experience. We connected. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. We went back a month and a half later, talked to the owner again. It was just a great experience. So that became our kind of go-to restaurant whenever we wanted Italian food for 10 years. And you know what? Then there was one time when I asked if they had non-alcoholic beer, and the waiter was kind of like made some snide joke about, oh, you can't appreciate Italian food without wine. Yeah, that's fine. You know, I totally get it. My wife's drinking wine right now, but I don't feel like one. And he was kind of rude. You know what? That was 4 years ago. We haven't been back. We have probably had 5 really good experiences, 2 wonderful over the top experiences. We probably had 5 on top of that, really good ones. And 1 experience that just put a bad taste in my mouth. And it wasn't even anybody invested in the restaurant. It was a waiter. It was enough. We just don't feel like going back. And that type of thing happens way too often. And just like that, I didn't complain to the restaurant. Maybe I should have. I would be a better customer if I did. But for every one person who complains, 26 people don't complain. And that's scary for business owners and managers. And last one, 3 in 5 Americans would try a new brand or company for better customer service experience. So that's where you guys can really make a giant impact in the profits of whatever business you've got, whether, whatever service or product that you've got. So in customer service, the best way for a manager or a business owner to handle customer service is to put love and growth into their employees. My book, of course, Explore, which Jeremy talked about, my first book, Ordinary to Extraordinary, took this concept from the book, The Power of Meaning. And it was belonging, purpose, storytelling, and transcendence. And how did I learn from those pillars of meaning? The second part is also from that same book. And how did I feel meaning from love and growth in my life? And it's kind of shocking how easy it is to inject love into people, your employees and things like that. How easy it is to help them with growth. But growth is a tricky thing. Love means going beyond yourself. So you're doing something for an employee that's bigger than yourself somehow. And it's a very important thing. We're going to talk about chemicals in a few minutes. It's a very important thing for them to feel a sense of that love, respect. Growth is an interesting thing. How many of you would rather win $528 million versus be going in a car accident and becoming a paraplegic? If you're like me, you'd probably want the $528 million, right? I think almost everybody's going to choose the $528 million. But if you're going to look at reality, you'd be happier after 1 year in a wheelchair than you would after winning over $500 million. The first study, you can Google this if you want, the first study on this was in the late 70s, and it's called Lottery Winners versus Paraplegics. And what they did is they took like 28 car accident victims who became paraplegic, and then they took a number, I can't remember what the number was, it was near 20 lottery winners, and then they looked at their life 1 year after the accident or after winning the lottery. Of the people in a wheelchair, the paraplegics, over 50% of them were as happy or happier 1 year after their accident than they were the day before their accident. For the lottery winners, very few of them were happier 1 year after the lottery than before. Why? Because they don't have to grow towards anything. And there's other studies for mega lotteries over $100 million. Those are the worst. Somebody who wins over $100 million, usually they all say they're going to start a charity and save the world, which is awesome, but very few do, if any. I don't know. I haven't seen any who have. But you want a bigger house, buy the biggest one on the block, buy the biggest one in the state. You want a Ferrari, paint it green if you love green. It's your favorite color. Alcohol, top shelf only, and you don't have to show up to the work the next day. So there's nothing left to grow towards. So they become depressed. It's part of us that we want to grow. Whereas the paraplegic suddenly has to learn how to has to learn how to live their life in a wheelchair. Totally new. Every day is a new beginning for them until they learn to live with different situations. So what the study shows is that growth is so fundamentally important for us as humans that it makes us appreciate the day-to-day things of life. For your employees, that's one of the things we can focus on. So company culture, of course, you've heard it a million times, starts with a leader. Simon Sinek is a master at talking about that, and I'm going to read a quote by him in a minute. But there are a few keys for leadership and helping your customers you're helping your customers via your employees being the best they can. And communication is one. Communication is a lot about listening, especially if you're the manager or the owner. If the employee feels like they're being listened to, that's amazing to them. And also communication is about the pronoun we instead of the pronoun I. I want you to clean the back of the store. Or, hey, do you think you can clean the back of the store so we can get something done, whatever it is. Using pronoun we instead of I can be better. The circle of safety. Have you heard about that before, the circle of safety? So this is back to our roots. Simon Sinek, this is from Simon Sinek's book, The Leaders Eat Last. And he's saying, as humans, we want a circle of safety. We need a circle of safety. There's chemicals involved, which I'll talk about in a minute. And the more safe we feel, the better we're going to do. Aesop's fable of 4 oxes and a lion is basically, when those 4 oxes are together, the lion can't do a thing. When they're separated, they can get eaten by one. And if you've ever looked at wild animals in Africa, like an eland or other types of gazelle in Africa, they often stand in a circle facing outward. Why? They're looking in a 360 degree. That's their circle of safety. And they often put the young ones in the middle. If you find ways to have a safety circle for your employees, they're going to do more for you than they can. Clarifying goals is extremely important. This is, again, the why, letting them know the why. Involving employees in decisions. If I have to have an employee make an Excel sheet for me, I mentioned this a year ago too. I don't say, hey, Johnny, can you get this Excel sheet to me by Wednesday? I need this, this, and this. Instead, I say, hey, Johnny, on Friday, I've got a board meeting and I'm going to present this. I think a really neat Excel sheet explaining it would go a long way. Can you help me with that? He's going to be more excited creating a better Excel sheet, thinking he's part of it, rather than just me telling him to do that. Rewarding a job well done, and it doesn't have to be money necessarily, but keeping the cheer alive for your employees. The last one I think is the most important, and it's by far the hardest, is to be a mentor. Again, this is the growth part. Your employees, whether they seem it or not, are desperate for growth in their lives. And when you're able to foster that growth a little bit by being a mentor to them, they're going to die for you. They're going to go bend over their backwards to help you and your company and you. But again, being a mentor is the hardest one, because it takes not only time, it takes an emotional investment a little bit, but it takes work and mental energy. But those things are going to cut your employees really want to be better with the customers, be better at everything. In this time of COVID-19, it's more important than ever, I think, for our employees to feel loved and other things like that. Simon Sinek, he says, this is what happens when leaders of an organization listen to the people who work there. Working with the sense of obligation is replaced by working with a sense of pride. Work is no longer a place of dread, it's a place to feel valued. And it often doesn't have to be hard for the business owner either. And another one from Simon Sinek is, disgruntled employees rarely leave a company, rather they endure it and they don't perform. And I've seen this over and over. It's sad when I've gone into companies and done an analysis of what's going on, and you've got maybe even a great relationship with the business owner and the employee. But then when I'm spending time around the employee unsupervised, and I see what they're really doing, and I ask them, and sometimes they just basically have in fewer words said, you know what, I really don't care. I'm here from 8 till 5 and I'm going to go home and do my thing. And they're not going to leave because they're too scared to leave, but they're not going to perform for you. And that's even scarier. I'd rather have almost no employee than one who's skating through and not performing at all. All right. As humans, we have not changed much since hunter-gatherers. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of years ago to now, humans haven't really changed much. However, our society has changed dramatically. But there are a few things. How can we engage our employees? There are a few things that if we know, chemicals that if we know, we can really help. Dopamine is the feeling we get when we accomplish a goal. Heroin produces these are hormones. Heroin will produce dopamine. But it's the same thing that if you get 25 likes on a Facebook post or 100 likes on an Instagram post, that's also dopamine. And people love that they get the reward, they feel the dopamine. Endorphin is a little different. Endorphin is released when we're pursuing a goal. And again, the hunter-gatherers, when you have to trot for 6 hours chasing some deer or animal that you're trying to track, why don't you stop after 4 hours when your legs hurt and your arms hurt? It's the runner's high. Endorphin is runner's high. And so this chemical allows us to keep going even when times are hard. And so a little bit of encouragement can also help that. Oxytocin is the familiar. This is released in our bodies when we're around people that we think that we enjoy spending time with. And so what this causes, oxytocin causes loyalty, trust, and gratitude. And so if your employees, if you're able to spend little bits of time, quality time with them, you're going to be building up oxytocin, and which with that, the loyalty and things like that. And then serotonin, this is from the drug ecstasy in the 80s and 90s. What that would do is it would rip open serotonin sacs and just release tons of it. And serotonin is also called the leadership chemical, because it's what we feel when we feel loved and respected. And it's a powerful tool to want people to keep doing better and better and better. And then on the other side, cortisol is released in anxiety. This is a good thing. We want stress. It would be hard for anybody to get a job done if they didn't have a little bit of stress pushing them. But when the stress becomes so constant, because that pushes, it's also fight or flight. It pushes adrenaline out. If I'm being chased by a tiger, I want adrenaline to run faster, fight harder, whatever it is. But now our society is in a place where we're constantly feeling stress. We're constantly releasing little bits of an adrenaline, and it's depleting us. We're becoming really tired and fatigued. I consider myself in a pretty good place right now, but I'm going to say I'm sleeping about an hour or hour and a half more per night than I did a year ago. And that's because I am dealing with more stress. I'm handling it well, but I am dealing with it, and I have to sleep more than I did a year ago. It's just kind of weird. But for your employees, if they're bombarded by the cortisol and the adrenaline, there's gonna be a crash at some point, which is not super healthy. And sometimes we run on adrenaline. I know a lot of people in restaurant industry, you get the evening shift, the business shift. Without adrenaline, you're not going to get through it. But we also need to have the ups and downs, because there needs to be a little bit of a relaxation afterwards. So think for a moment, what are ways that you can love your employees? What are ways that you can provide growth opportunities for your employees, because they're going to need it, especially in times like this. I have on your workbook, I don't want you to do it now, but I have communication, circle of safety, clarify goals, etc. listed. I want you very soon, like within the next day or two, to go through this and rate yourself on a 1 to 10. How good is your communication? How good are you at being a mentor? And then after you rate yourself, maybe see what you can do to improve in that area so that your employees can really find a better place. And you know what? I'm not saying all your employees are in a bad place. In fact, I'm assuming a lot of your employees are in a great place, but with learning how to use these chemicals to befriend them and release the right things, I suggest looking more into these chemicals. Simon Sinek's book, The Leaders Eat Last, is a good place to start. But because what we're doing is using biology to drive the direction of our employees. So my screen is still shared. This is a lot of what I'm going to focus on tomorrow and this afternoon with the frontline employees. 12 ways to create superfan customers who will return. The first is building rapport with customers. And this is used from neuro-linguistic programming, matching and mirroring, being like your customers. Make customer feel part of your company's story. This is a thing that you can do too. You can help your employee feel part of your story. Let them know exactly what your story is so that they can kind of give that down to your customer. So North Face is famous for having advertisements based 100% on their customers' YouTube videos, where they'll see the YouTube videos by their customers wearing North Face, and they'll say, hey, can we put this into a package? So do you know what? Those customers aren't doing anything but living their life with a product that they like, and they're part of the company's story, and the story is used that to their advantage. Using language that assuming the customer will return, even something as simple as I'll see you tomorrow. If somebody comes in for coffee every day, you saying I'll see you tomorrow makes it a much more likely chance that customer will come back tomorrow than maybe come back tomorrow. Make the language making the customer feel they belong. Using customer names. Only 21% of the time do people ask customer names, and the name and thank you. So you're hearing your own name and thank you are the two things that people like hearing the most. And so why not? That's so easy. Take a sec, smile, eye contact, compliment. Can do it to everybody who walks through the door. Appropriately use physical touch. This one we're going to wait a while for, I'm sure, but touching somebody on the elbow as they're walking next to them, reaching over and patting them on the forearm across the counter as you're doing an action, a high five. These are things that create oxytocin as well, is appropriate physical touch with people. But I know that's out for a little while. Ask about the customer's story. If you want a customer to love your company, ask them about themselves, and then they're going to wind their story into your story as well. And invite customers to upcoming events if possible, when that's more relevant. And then use the 4 pillars of engagement. The 4 pillars of engagement is something that Eagle Rider, a company I worked for, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a company analysis to figure out what our millions of customers over the years liked and what made them want to come back. We found out it was being authentic, being social, being reassured, and feeling free, liberated. And I have those listed on your workbook as well. So you've got those. And then the 4 pillars, meaning I talked about before, belonging, purpose, storytelling, and transcendence. Mostly for that one, the easy ones are belonging and purpose and storytelling. Really help people engage with what you guys have going on. So our goal is to have successful employees, which in turn creates successful customer service, which in turn has customers who want to come back. So the goal is successful customer service, but is success something that happens in the end? It isn't. Success can happen anytime. And this is drawn from the book Explore as well, where this is a photograph of me and Chris McIntyre. He's the owner of Eagle Rider. A few of you guys can, I think you know him. And so this is Chris and I on Mount Elbrus in Russia. It's the highest mountain in Europe. So right now we're at about 15,500 feet. So about 1,000 feet higher than Mount Whitney. We're on our way up, and look how happy we are. This is success, isn't it? We didn't reach the goal, but this is success. However, about 2 hours or 3 hours after that, the storm got worse. I ended up with frostbite on my face. We were 170 meters from the summit of the highest peak in Europe, all the way across the world in southern Russia, on the border of Russia and Georgia. Lightning strikes, and our climb is done like that. So we spent a lot of money and a lot of time getting to Russia, preparing. We had to be on the mountain for 5 days just to be able to get to that altitude. So it's at 18,500 feet. And so we had to climb down the mountain, 170 meters from the top. We had to climb down the mountain. We were climbing with 5 people, 3 of them left, and a guide, a Russian guide. 3 of them left. And Chris and I just said, you know what? We're never going to forgive ourselves if we don't stay. So we knew the weather report was bad, 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 and worse. We stayed on the mountain for 2 more days, and we resolved that we were going to go home and tell all our friends that knew we were climbing that we failed. But luckily, 2 days later, there was a break in the weather. That storm is still going down below on the west side of the mountain, but we're above it now. And there's about 100-mile-an-hour winds that you can't see in this picture. But so we ended up making it. So this is success too, but you don't have to even make it. One of the things I'm most happy about this climb isn't reaching the top. It's learning that I can handle the failure and still call that climb a success if I had to, because I think success is basically a path. It doesn't have to be a brick path. It can be a dirt path. It can be any path. Success is the path that we either choose to walk on or we don't. A successful person can be a business owner with 15,000 liquid in the bank, or it could be an entrepreneur with an idea and a bunch of debt. But as long as they're walking that path of success, they are successful today. They're not successful when they get the better car. They're not successful when they get their first big deal. They're successful today. And that's important. Happiness. I use the idea of happiness is like a backpack. We either choose to put on the backpack of happiness or we don't. This little woman walking on this little rock, she has a backpack on. She chose to put that backpack on. Happiness is the same thing. We can choose to put it on or we can choose not to. It's our choice, and it's 100% our choice. So that is the main thing, is that we all matter. One of the things that helped me realize that I matter was when I realized that being different was a good thing. And one of the things I also learned is when I do help people, I not only feel good, but good things happen in return. Of all the successes, I've climbed the highest peaks of 13 countries and 13 states, and I've done other things that I really am excited about. But of all of the things that I've done, the thing that I'm most proud of is if I get an email from somebody saying, hey, Erik, I either read your book or I saw you and I made this small change that really made a difference. Thank you for that. That is what my success is. And it's a continual, it's a progress. There's no end to it. In the back of your workbook, I have a wrap-up tool, and some of you for this workbook, I really hope that some of you have the time and take the time to go through it now that we're done, and really engage with it and go through page by page and fill out everything, because I do think that you're going to learn something about yourself. The wrap-up tool is something that I hope you do today. Sometimes I would actually do it when we're live. I like to just do it right then. So basically it just says, what are 3 things you gained from attending this program today? Because you're going to forget right away. So think of 3 things that you gained from today, whether it be the chemicals, whether it be something. And then what are 3 action steps needed to put this into motion? So I encourage you guys to do that today. And also, don't let it end here. My email and website are up here. I thrive on engaging with people that I've spoken with. I absolutely love it. You guys are special up in Mammoth Lakes now that I've been up a few times. So read that last page, engage on Facebook and or on LinkedIn. Send me emails. I'd love to connect with you guys. So I really hope that you're anxious to think of ways that you can work with your employees to engage even more. Brainstorm how you can get their customer service on the radar. So it's not like the gorilla that we don't see, or it's not like the back panel that we don't notice. It's something that we're tracking. In micromechanics, they say what you don't track doesn't exist, basically. And so it's, if we're tracking customer service and how our employees are doing, you're going to go a lot further with it and help them create super fans who are going to return again and again. So now I'm still available here for questions. So let's see if any of you guys have got any questions. That's it for me.
Erik, thank you so much. This has been a great presentation. You know, going through the workbook, I wish we had more time to kind of go more into depth with everything. You know, our breakout group, my only complaint is that it was too short. You know, we had some good connection going and some interesting things we were talking about, but obviously, you know, you're covering a lot for us. And you know, what I'm gathering out of this workbook is really, this workbook is a tool for us owners, managers, to take back to our team, back to our business, and use it as kind of a guide to maybe make some changes within our business, brainstorm a little bit, and get some feedback from our management team, from our employees, so on and so forth. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, Jeremy. And also, I wanted to at least have one few-minute breakout session when you're in groups of 4, just for you guys to remember how important it is to communicate. We are so isolated right now. A lot of people need that. I maybe even connect with the 4 people you were in your group. Who knows? Maybe you're seeing the grid like I am, and you can say, okay, Michael Oliver, I want to connect with you next week, and so figure it out. And so that you do get into groups and continue the story. And definitely working through this, just spending a half an hour maybe is probably, I bet if you went through this thoughtfully, it would take about a half an hour. And I do think it's going to bring things to the surface that you hadn't thought about. And so you're exactly right, Jeremy. And I highly encourage you guys to keep the communication with each other going. I have a few accountability partners that I meet with once a week. It's online now. And I know that really helps me. I'm able to share the things that are not going well with these people, and I'm able to celebrate the successes with them as well. And in both cases, I know I need it. And the good thing is, there are 4 people I meet with regularly. The good thing is, there's usually one of us who is in a bad state at any time. Something's happened. And then so you got 3 people to elevate that, and it revolves. It's not always the same person who's in a bad place or something. So, and it's great. So I encourage you to keep communicating with each other.
Brianna, did we have any questions that popped up in the chat, or does anybody have, a question that they would like to share or ask, or a comment they'd like to share, or a question they'd like to ask with Erik before we let him go? I think we have about 5 more minutes left, correct? If anybody has anything that they would like to ask Erik while we have him here today.
Nothing in the chat. Also, you should all be able to unmute yourselves if anyone has any questions. So unmute or in the chat.
And if any of you were listening to my presentation and saying, oh my gosh, Erik should know about this, because I always, usually after live presentations, somebody will come up to me and say, you talked about this. Do you know about this? And it's something very similar that I didn't know about. So if there was a time when I was talking and you think of something that would relate to what I'm doing that I didn't mention, I'd love it if you sent me a quick email or something, just so that I can find out about that awesome thing that's probably there that I don't know about.
I'll kind of interject here with a comment. The first thing when we broke out into our group that we touched on was, we were kind of like asking each other, well, how you doing? And that was right after we took the deep breaths. And so, we were all feeling really good, so, that was a great place for us to start, kind of, they usually say what breakfast is the most important meal of the day, kind of, think about where are you starting from, right? Whenever you're kind of, maybe starting your day at work or starting a shift or whatever it is you're kind of doing. That was a nice way to kind of get us started for this session today. The other comment I had was, who are you really going through this? The seeds, anxiety, pursuit, discovery, illumination. At first, it was so funny because at first I thought, I only kind of came up with one pursuit, kind of thinking back. And then as I continue to think, just more things pop into mind. So just, what you think about initially, sometimes, there's so much that has happened, so much that you go through, and kind of thinking about, where you came from. And it all kind of ties into your, what we finished on here with how, success is a path. It's not like a place that you get to. It's something you're constantly moving along. So I liked that, happiness is a backpack, success is a path. I thought that was a nice note to finish up on, and appreciate that, Erik.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. And those deep breaths, I actually, because I'm not super good at remembering, I have a little ding that goes off on my phone every 2.5 hours, and it reminds me to do 2 things. I take 3 big giant breaths and I drink a glass of water, and it's shocking how those 2 things help a lot. And then on top of that, I exercise and I meditate in the morning. Those are 4 things that I do that were part of the illumination stage of my life that I continue to do because I find they're so effective.
And Erik, thank you. It's great to have you back with us. I wish it was in person.
Yeah.
Next year.
Let's hope so. So thanks, Ken. Thanks, Brianna. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Curtis. Thanks, all of you guys. Appreciate you being here. I really love speaking with you again.
Yeah, we hope, go through your workbook. There's a lot of really good exercises, to go through with either personally or with your staff, and to kind of help you grow, build as a person. And that's what these sessions are all about, right? To make us think a little bit, grow a little bit, educate ourselves a little bit. Erik, thank you so much. We'll wrap it up here, and looking forward to the front line. Everybody on this call is welcome to join either of the front line. We've got this afternoon starting at 3:45, correct? And then
Correct.
tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So, and we'll be going over in further detail kind of what Erik talked about, the 12 ways to create superfan customers. So we'll get a little bit more in depth on that. Thanks so much, Erik.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Erik.